here again. Hey, they say it takes two to tango. Well, I scoff at their remarks because in this case, I can run Aster Tango all by myself. In fact, the reason I would want to do this is so that I could allow the system to help me learn any one of the hundreds of functions that Aster has available to me. All I need to do is select this. I'm going to tell it what my data source is, and this is an ODBC source I've already created. Then it lets me select what type of analytic function I'm running. In this case, I'm going to try the path and pattern, and I want to run the npath query. You'll notice what it does is it gives me some predefined values, and I need to fill these things in. So as I'm learning the format for any of these new commands that I'm trying to do to learn how to become more of a data scientist, it gives me the values. All I have to do is then type in what table I'm pulling that from. And each one of these values, I simply go through, and as I'm clicking through here, you'll notice it gives me help. As if I want to get more information, it'll show me what the values should be, and I can look additional information up. So I'm simply going to type in this. All I'm basically right now I've said is I want to look at the surgical events table, which is data I've loaded into Teradata for the surgical events for my health system. I'm going to say partition it by record ID, which is basically like a SQL group by, and I'm going to have it ordered by day number and code number. Now comes some of the interesting asterisk stuff for npath. And so as I look these up, there's two different modes. There's an overlapping mode and a non-overlapping mode. I'm going to ask it for the non-overlapping mode. I'm going to fill in some of these values, and some of these you may not know, and that's where that help comes in to understand how to use this query. And so basically here, I'm saying that each row should be any procedure, and I want to be able to add these rows together as part of it. Now, what part do I want? I'm going to go ahead and paste in this information here simply because the syntax is a little bit tricky to get started. And what I'm saying is I want the first record of any procedure as the record ID, so that I can kind of group on that, which was what I was doing. And then I also want to do an accumulate. So the accumulate says, hey, take these procedures and add them together. And since I've defined that the rows are going to be called any procedure, I'm saying take the procedure of any of those rows and make that my path. Once I get done with this, I can say, hey, I want you to add this to the script. And now I can go out and view what that script is that it would generate for me. But it gets even better because you notice here it says verbose documentation turned off. I can tell it I want you to give complete documentation for me so that I can embed that into my application if I were to choose to. So now if I were to say add that script, you'll notice that I have complete documentation here so that I understand what it is I'm looking at. Now here's the beauty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm just going to copy this query as it is, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come right over to Qlik Sense, and I'm going to paste that command in. So I'm just taking it directly out of Aster Tango. I've already created a connection to my ODBC source to connect to Teradata Aster, and I'm simply going to tell it to load the data. It's going to go off and connect, and it's going to run this query. You'll notice I did not have to use an option that is available in Tango, which says build a temporary table, because I may need to use this over and over. I might want to have change my command. I might want to run this on the fly if the data source is so big. So with Qlik Sense, I do not need to build any temporary tables or create views for these commands. I can simply take that SQL-MR command, run it directly through the ODBC driver right to Teradata Aster, and as you'll see, it's bringing back these rows. In the last video, I kind of cheated and said, hey, I've already loaded the data. In this case, I wanted you to see that it could load 469,000 rows of data in less than a minute. Now, what would we do with it in Qlik Sense? And of course, we're not going to, it wouldn't be any fun if I didn't go ahead and try to visualize this data. So I could look at any of these paths if I wanted. I could look at the record IDs that are involved if I want to search for anything special. But of course, we're going to have a little bit of fun, and we're going to create a simple sand key. So I'm going to take this sand key diagram object. I want to add the dimension here is my path, and I'm going to get a count of the record IDs so that I know what the volume is. And now I would be able to visualize the path of different surgeries. In this case, we're looking at one specific starting point, but obviously the application will be more elaborate, and that's what you're going to see in the next video. Hope you've enjoyed it.